Okay guys, welcome back. So today we're going to run through a little test with our man Mac Boucher here. We're going to do some shaft testing with you.
Yeah, I don't try a lot of driver shafts normally, so it's going to be fun to try something else other than what I'm used to.
Yeah, you really don't. I mean, vintage is kind of your thing.
Yeah, I find something that works and I don't steer away from it. I'm sure there's options that are better, but
yeah.
I just like the feel of it, so I don't switch. So it'll be cool to see if I'm maybe missing out on anything or anything like that.
For sure. LA Golf is a company that you guys will have heard a little bit about, and the last few years, certainly their association and partnership with Bryson DeChambeau and now with Dustin Johnson. Michelle Wee is part of their team.
Drew Cooper
plays them. Yeah, and an unaffiliated, just performance-based
Yeah, he just
user.
likes it, yeah.
He just loves it.
Spoke very highly of him.
Definitely. So he was he'd shown interest in the Bryson Texas rebar shafts back in the day. He'd always ask me, he's like, "Can you get me a set?" And I'm like, "No, I think they're made specifically for Bryson at his one length, model." But the L series that he and I are both using are really stout as well. So he absolutely loves them.
Yeah.
His tagline is, "Steel is dead."
It's true. He's obsessed with them, actually.
He loves it.
Which is cool, yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to get into the woods, and very, very uniquely, they have actually partnered with two players, as we said, Bryson DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson, to make their own signature series. And basically, that's going to be a model that they use moving forward when they work with players. They're literally going to create one-offs for these particular players. They're going to work with them in whatever feel and design characteristics, EI curve, balance point, whatever it is that they like, might be torque, to create exactly their preferences. So we're going to test these both out. I think from afar, these both look quite similar, actually, on our wall, when you wouldn't really notice that they're any different. But there is some subtleties. You've got the DJ shaft there and the high gloss finish.
Yeah, it's definitely glossier.
It has, up to under the grip there, it has what looks like a weave. See that there, just under the handle? I've got the Bryson model here, which is a kind of more of a flat matte finish. For those of you who remember Matrix Golf, this is kind of what the black tie, red tie, white tie was sort of finished like. So, be somewhat familiar to those players. But these are two totally different shafts, two totally different players.
Very different.
DJ is someone who obviously has a lot of speed, but maybe doesn't quite have the same needs that Bryson has. So it will be quite interesting to see what that shows up with your ball flight, because these are designed for them, not specifically for you. So what does that mean for the average golfer out there?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, if you look at a guy like Dustin, like he swings within his limits. Like I think he's the first to say that he probably has 5 more gears that he could tap into, but he's very smooth and kind of has effortless speed at the speed that he games at. So
totally. And Bryson's the opposite. He's
goes
red
out.
line in every single golf swing, especially with the big dog.
Definitely.
So it'll be interesting. Okay, we've built it up in your Stealth Plus head, set it up nice and neutral, so we can allow the shaft to show its differences, if there are any.
Cool.
All right, DJ Signature Series first. Mac, one of the things with this shaft is it's a little counterbalanced as well, a little higher balance point, so it'll be interesting to see how that feels, whether it gives you a feeling of you can shift the head a little bit quicker, does it feel like it accelerates more, or do you feel like you lose the head because you can't quite feel it as much?
Okay, cool. And it's 45 inches?
Yes.
Okay.
High straight hammer. Very nice. Really nice. Yeah, finding your groove with this thing now.
Yeah, it's starting to feel good now that I've hit a couple.
Touch spinnier?
Little spinnier in that one, definitely launched a little bit.
Not the worst thing in the world to have.
No,
I
don't mind. To be honest,
spin, yeah.
I rather that than the diver for me, because I get so up on it. I think having the spin kick up to 2,500 is actually kind of a blessing a lot of the time.
That's coming back really nicely. A bit flatter there, Mac.
Yeah, that was flatter, lower spin. It feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Took a couple swings there to kind of get the feel of it, but again, I don't feel a lot of things. As long as it doesn't feel crazy, then I can kind of adapt to it. But it definitely feels pretty smooth.
Okay, give me one more.
A little spinnier again, but I would take it.
A spinny one, well, maybe just, yeah,
Spinny
just
in
spiked
my-
up a little bit, but yeah, it wasn't bad. It
Felt spinny, but it
no,
wasn't.
no,
Yeah.
and it had a decent peak, but it was good. Really nice numbers there, really good. Ball speed's efficient, launch is nice and tight. Again, I'm not looking whether, I just want the thing to do the same thing all the time at 2300 spin, 12-1 launch, 161 efficiency on standard deviations. Really, really good. That's a nice fit for you.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. It's kind of similar to like, again, these are just like my game speed, I call them, like me not really stepping into them, kind of that 112 to 115 club kind of
Right.
thing. It's kind of right where I'd want it. I didn't see any of those outliers that were like the 1500 dive bombers
No.
that I get. So
And most of that, guys, is when you see that one that's a wicked low spinner or something that's just a bit of a rogue, ball flight, it tends to be strike point,
Yeah, strike point.
that causes it. So when we start to see the strike sort of moving all over the face and start to stray a little bit, obviously that's a bad sign because our intent is to match up the sweet spot of the golf club with the middle of the golf ball and get maximum energy and obviously the least curvature at certain times. But if we're not doing that consistently, the curvature on the face, the bulge and roll can kind of create havoc with your launch conditions.
yeah, definitely. And I think that's why it's so important that I catch a good part of the face. That's why
Totally.
I don't really care about anything other than hitting the middle of the club. I've always been like that. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's switch into Bryson. Okay. Pretty good.
Yeah. 24, similar.
A lot more shape than the last one, which is probably, a lot more height, actually. Interesting. How does it feel?
Feels a little stiffer. I don't know. Something feels a little bit, I don't know if it is supposed to be, but to me, it just feels like a little bit more boardy. I don't know.
It's definitely what it's designed for. The whole Texas rebar concept is just around Bryson being able to go full throttle and not have the wild dispersion that can sometimes bring. So, yeah, this might be out. This will be outside most people's comfort zone. Might even be outside yours.
Yeah, and I think I'm starting to get that feeling of like more of a smooth shaft's better for me, where it doesn't feel like I have to work as hard. So this is probably, I mean, again, I could probably get used to it, but it feels a little bit more of a challenge for me to kind of swing it.
That's a nice flight. A bit more like the DJ flight there.
Yeah, that was similar.
I mean, it's
literally
it
the
is
exact same.
no. This is perfect. I mean, this is how these things go, and
I'm making the exact same swings, like
that's it. I mean, we're looking at, for the most part, we're looking at the same thing. But we see the subtleties of like, if you're not really being influenced one way or another by either shaft, if it's not feeling that different, you're not going to start trying to do anything different. If they feel like they're loading inside the same window, you're just going to keep making the same pass at it. And as long as you're hitting the middle of the head, the RPM's within one of each other.
No, I think I've done a pretty good job with both of hitting. I mean, I maybe caught some fractionally a little bit lower than what I'm used to because I'm normally like a high in the face.
Yeah.
I have been experimenting in the last couple months with teeing ball just a little lower because I was getting so under it.
Yeah.
But just keeping that strike in the middle, I mean, I'm not noticing a ton of difference.
I mean, that was really good, Mac.
Yeah, that was a good swing
That
there.
sounded a pitch higher to me, which normally means at the top of the head.
Yeah,
Not
it was
the top, but the high middle.
It was definitely, that was probably my closest one in the middle with this This shaft for sure.
Literally, as you go on, you get closer and closer to doing the same thing. Okay.
Those are like
And
identical.
again. Yeah, you could literally play either one.
To be honest, now that I'm swinging it, and again, this is kind of a fault that I struggle with like trying new clubs, because I find that I'm able to kind of make things work as long as they feel good, which they both feel good. One feels maybe fractionally stiffer, that's just a personal feel, but I could easily play both, and I could make them work. So,
Totally. So, I mean, and it's kind of probably, the shaft manufacturers will not like to see a result like this, because the effort that they put in to manipulate the profiles of these, the torque, the different technologies, the layering of the shaft, the graphite on the shaft, all these things that change the performance characteristics. The reality is, if you make the same swing dynamically, you're likely to see very minimal change. It's only if someone starts to go, this one doesn't feel very good, this one feels a little stiffer, you'll start to then change some things. That's the reality of it. But that's in your case. There's other people who walk in here and try two shafts and hit one up here and hit one down there. Drew Cooper with the steel shaft and the graphite shaft.
yeah, it's so true.
It completely changed his delivery.
And I think for me, I'm like, if I can stick to my one swing thought, I'll make any club kind of feel the same in the sense, as long as I'm striking the middle of the face. That's all I really care. If I'm striking the middle of the face, I'll make it work for me.
Well, I mean, conclusive in that Matt could play either one. That's the conclusive part. What's inconclusive is really how they differ from one another in flight, and we'll need to test a little bit more to kind of get that established as to really where the strength lies in each of those. But I mean, looking at those numbers, they're tremendous. Both in a very, very similar end window, launch, spin, speed, side angle.
Yeah, I think we hit like 15 shots there or whatever, just less
Did
than
we
that.
forget to change them and we hit the same one over and over again?
Yeah, it literally just felt like I was swinging the same club.
Yeah.
They're all kind of doing the same thing. I don't think one of them was out of play. So those are shafts or clubs that I would play if I can find it.
Let's just for my own kind of interest, let's try something here. All right, in the interest of fairness and proper quality testing, we want to take any kind of bias or your ability to manipulate the ball flight to match what your eye wants to see out of the equation here, right? So we'll literally turn the screen off. I'm going to see my screen, turn it away from you. You actually don't know anything about that shaft. We've not teed up anything about it. You don't know any of the characteristics. You just know it's a blank black shaft.
Yeah, you handed it to me, I don't have a clue.
No idea. Okay, perfect. This will be fun. So this will be interesting to see if there's any subtleties, any differences, or do you just create a feel within your own swing that allows the same ball flight to show up?
Okay. That's left.
How did that feel?
That was better. Better for sure. And that was the best one yet.
Another good one?
Yeah. Felt good. That was necky.
Good one?
Yeah.
Bad one?
Good.
Good. Good, bad?
It was a workout, but it was okay. I think it's left, but.
So how do you think that was compared to the?
My dispersion from feel-wise, I did not feel like I had as much control with this one. I don't know what it was. I felt like I was not in the middle of the strike as much. Potentially a little bit more of a left miss was my feel. I don't know if that's the case or not. Probably not. It didn't feel bad by any means. It felt a little lighter maybe.
Your furthest left one went 1.4 yards left of the line.
Okay.
Your furthest right one went 60 yards right of the line.
60?
60. There was one that went 60 yards. There was one that went 57 yards right. There's one that went 24 yards right.
It's wild.
So these two shafts have been talked about as being for right-handed golfers, very anti-left.
Okay.
Right, both of them. Both players do not want to see the ball go left. You found it very easy to turn this one over. This is the A series by LA Golf. More of the design for the average player, right? Turn it over for the player who I've not read or have not heard from LA Golf about this, but I would imagine there's some asymmetry to the design, basically meaning that it makes it actually very easy for the shaft to influence the rate of rotation for the club. Making asymmetrical shafts is actually illegal, but there is no way to test it. You're actually not allowed to do it. But Matrix Golf back in the day had a shaft called the Rule, RUL, TaylorMade had in some of their clubs, and it was called the Rule because it was the rule breaker. So it was asymmetrical by design. So it was actually designed to increase the rate of closure on the head. There will be something, I'm fairly certain, with the design characteristics of this that allows you to shut it down a little bit easier. Whether that's a softer, and it allows it to kick a little bit more, whether it's something in the asymmetry of the shaft itself, but totally different. So that averaged 24.8 yards right of the line.
Yeah, and for me, right is huge X. I hate the right miss. So the reason I thought that it went, I guess, left is I was thinking, generally where I felt like I was striking him on the face would be kind of a spinnier left miss for me. Just generally, I didn't catch any of those in the toe. It felt like they were all probably
touch middle to Healy.
Yeah, middle to Healy. So the fact that they're still going right is a bit of an issue because when I start creeping into the toe strikes, that's going to be, so 60 yards, it'll be 120.
There was nothing concerning about like the spin rate or anything. The average 2,400 spin and 12.5 launch, so that was pretty good. Ball speed was down about 1.5 miles an hour, maybe 2 at certain times. You were down about 5 yards in carry, and average height was just a little bit variable. But on the whole, it was higher than both. But it was just the most prominent thing was just you had a right miss with this one that you just didn't have with any of the other ones. The other ones were just so certain that they were going to start down the right-hand side and bleed back.
Yeah.
Right? Just had that on autopilot.
Now, would it be interesting to turn the screen back on
and hit it again?
Keep this in the club and just see how much of this is actually user and how much, just to see, like, I think it would be cool, do 5 shots where, now that I know what the results were, if I can manipulate it to match what the other ones were doing by changing my swing a bit.
Very good. One of your best ones actually there.
Yeah, that was hit good. A little Healy.
I was going to say a little thin, maybe.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, good 5.
Yeah.
Okay, cool little test. So when we run it back, it was definitely more online and tighter when you can see it, but it still is right at that line of the other two. So, the ball speed is very, very similar. Launch angle is identical. Spin rates are super tight. There was a couple, even if we take out, as on disable those ones, that's kind of what it looks like, without the two big misses. So it does the same thing, effectively. You just had two misses, and that's maybe where your eyes not be able to see and pick a target, maybe at times lose a little bit of the face. But when we go back to the Bryson and DJs, they're different. They're definitely different flights for you, and there's no way that you would, in a fit, take either of the orange or green ones when you've got something in the blue and the red that end up back online.
Yeah, that's the one thing I could feel is the first two, I didn't feel a ton of difference as the results showed. I maybe a little stiffer with the Bryson, but I kind of worked around that. I felt a lot more control with those ones. I definitely lost the head a little bit on them. Yeah. When the screen was off and you were asking if I hit that one well or not, sometimes I didn't really even know. Right. Which is rare for me, because normally I can tell you if that went 30 yards left, that went 30 yards right. So
it's pretty cool when you see with a test like this. It's 20, 25 shots or so, and three of the four combos literally went the exact same distance in the air. 292, 213, 214, 214. Obviously this one there was a couple of spinnier ones in there, but it's wild to see how similar these clubs can come out.
Yeah, especially considering how different the shaft kind of makeups are. Like, this is completely different.
Totally different.
You haven't even told me what this is yet, but it's obviously it's a ton different than what I was playing in those ones. But for them to be that similar, maybe with the outlier bad one.
Definitely. So hopefully, guys, something in there for you to learn a little bit about shaft fitting, something to take away in terms of, shafts might not be identical in the profile, but they can do very similar things. There are shaft profiles that help rotate the club a little bit more. There are some that actually are very anti-rotation, things like that. How you're supposed to navigate that without being fit, I've no idea. I really don't. I don't know how somebody, blind luck, just pick that one, on a shaft catalogue and I'll try that one. Other than going and testing them and going through a process like this where you can dive into the club data, the ball data, have somebody who can interpret even things like body language and kind of the acoustics of where a ball's being struck and things like that. It's not like it's easy for us and we do it every day.
Yeah, exactly.
How somebody does it who's not a professional at it, I have no idea.
Well, it just shows you how difficult club fitting is in general. Like, people, even when you get those questions saying like, what shaft would be good for me? Like, we don't know. You need to actually come in and see what the numbers, see what the ball flight characteristics are, and that's going to be the selling feature of it. It's not going to just be, this one looks like it's going to be good by the description of it. It's kind of
too hard
lose-lose. Yeah,
too hard. But very, very cool test. I love that, that kind of, we added the blind component to it, which kind of, maybe tricked your feels a little bit and turned some of them off, your creativity off a little bit. And then when we turn it back on, it turns out the green and the orange, minus the two ones that got away from you, are basically identical. Again, another really, really cool thing about this test.
Yeah, it's really cool. I definitely learned a lot there. That was pretty interesting.
That was fun. Okay, guys, moral of the story, go get fit. Don't do yourselves the disservice of trying to choose an option for the bag, spending a lot of money. People think custom fitting's expensive. Not being custom fit's expensive, because you run the risk, a much higher risk of getting it wrong. That's what truly costs you money. An investment in the long run in your equipment by spending a little bit more to get the right one, that's what's going to be the smart money spent in the long term. So go get fit wherever locally to you has, a company that has a great reputation, has a lot of shaft options, head options, great technology. Do your due diligence, see if there's a fitter that sounds like they know what they're doing. That would be the way to make sure that you run sort of the odds in your favor of getting a club that's really going to help your game. That's the most important thing. Stay tuned for more. We'll see you again soon.